Sorry, no.
Yeah, I just wasn't.
Technically,
I
you're.
wasn't going to jump into the center chair.
No, I know, no.
So
That's correct. Sorry, I was just.
We can always play musical chairs. Come out of Liz. Oh, that was. What's that? Oh, thank you.
This looks good when it's nice and close.
But that's what happens. It's hard. It happens a long time.
Yeah, you have full quorum. Wow. Oh.
Technically,
I
you're.
wasn't going to jump into the center chair.
No, I know, no.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 1 o'clock, and I will chair the meeting until the chair and vice chair have been elected. I will start by asking for a motion to confirm the agenda, please. McNaughton? Seconded by? All those in favor? Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I'll now call for nominations for the position of chair. Would someone like to nominate someone? Yes?
I'd like to nominate Phil as our chair.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for chair? Seeing none, can I have a motion that nominations for chair be closed? Oh, Councillor St. Jean.
Yes, I will stand.
Thank you. Now I'm going to call for nominations for the position of vice chair. Councillor St. Jean,
Yes, I'd like to nominate Crystal Lanstra.
and would you agree to let your name stand?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to close nominations for vice chair? Councillor Nyman. Seconded by, thank you, Councillor McNaughton, that the nominations for chair and vice chair be closed. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now, could I have a motion to appoint Councillor St. Jean and as chair for the meeting and Crystal Langstra as vice chair? By Councillor Hutton. All those in favor? That's carried. And now I will hand the meeting over to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, members of the committee. I appreciate your support, and I'll do everything I can to live up to your expectations. So we are now at item 5.1, that minutes of the previous meeting. So could I have a mover and seconder, please, for the motion on the agenda? Crystal? And Councillor Nyman, that the minutes of the Prince Edward County Affordable Housing Corporation from the meeting held on January 13, 2025 be adopted as presented. Is there any discussion regarding those minutes? or questions? Seeing none, I will call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Okay. I got to remember to keep looking at Sam over here. Okay, so comments from the audience. Is there anyone in the audience who wished to comment on anything that's on the agenda? No? Okay. So for those at home, we do have one person in the audience, so I felt I better ask that question. Items for consideration. 7.1. And there's a motion here. Not going to read it. I'm going to ask someone else to do that, mover and seconder, and then we will move on to discussion of that. Mover and seconder, please. Crystal and Brad. Yeah. Please read it, yes.
That the draft governance manual be received, that an ad hoc governance and policy working group be struck to undertake a review of the governance documents with support from staff, with recommended revisions to be brought to the board for consideration, that the governance manual be brought to the board for consideration at the earliest opportunity, and that blank and blank be appointed to the governance and policy review working group.
Okay, I'm going to ask, I guess that's the clerk then. Okay, thank you. So Victoria, please go ahead
Thank you,
with
Mr.
the
Chair.
presentation.
What you have before you is very much a draft. What we actually did was compile all the existing policies of the board along with other documents that speak to policy, such as the bylaws, the service level agreement, even the letters patent. We did not have an opportunity to review them all, but that's what this motion is asking you to do, is to go through them methodically. There's some overlap. There's some things that are possibly out of date or not even relevant anymore. But it really needs to be looked at as a package. But we gave it to you in this format to at least see it all in one spot, and then we can move on to the next steps.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the clerk on this draft governance document and the steps moving forward? Councillor McNaughton?
I'm just wondering, is this an appropriate time to offer preliminary feedback before this group goes and does its job? Or should that, I feel like this would be a good point to just offer some very preliminary feedback to take away for review of the governance documents. And I just want to check and make sure that people are comfortable with that, or would people prefer to have comment directly in response to anything that the committee offers, or working group, pardon me.
Madam Clerk?
I thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't see any problem with some preliminary feedback. It's going to be a fairly big job, so certainly any help that we could get would be helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I follow up?
Please go ahead and follow up. Yeah.
Okay, so the primary sort of comment that I had initially on the initial first glance, and I'm still absorbing everything that I've read, and actually probably need quite a bit of time to sort of think it through and go through it again. But one of the initial comments before you go away and do work on this, because it probably won't be me because I don't have a lot of capacity right now, is in the criteria for scoring for potential candidates and in the sample questions, there's no categories for lived experience or people who have dealt with impacts of housing precarity on mental health, life outcomes, et cetera. And I think it would be really good to have that as a scored criteria and as part of the sample questions if you go forward with sample questions, because it can be very helpful to have people who have an actual connection with lived experience of impacts, so that they can sort of help ensure that there aren't unintentional consequences, but additionally, they can help keep that fire burning bright so that we don't ever forget that this is a crisis that needs constant attention. And that's just input.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything they wish to add to that as a comment? Not at this point. Or Crystal?
Sure. So through the chair to the committee, my main comments when kind of looking through this is just looking at the language that's speaking to the role of the board as being strategic versus operational elements. And I just found in looking at it, that might be something we want to flesh out a bit more in terms of how that actually looks from an implementation perspective. Because yeah, just kind of the lived experience of being on the committee, how it all will connect together. I think maybe that direction will assist us in moving towards our goals. And yeah, that would be my input at this time.
And I see staff are making notes, particularly the clerk to Councillor Nyman or Councillor Grosso disappeared for a second there. Either of you have anything you wish to add? No? Okay. So, okay, I had a number of thoughts as well, but it might take a lot longer than, anyways. I'm looking forward to seeing this draft governance manual pulled together, because I know there's, with the changeover from a corporation under the Corporations Act versus the MSC format, which we've gone through. We've done the strategy session update very recently. It's clear that there were some gaps that needed to be addressed, and I'm confident that the governance manual, once it's completed, will help to address a lot of those things, as well as the criteria for being membership on the board and all of that. So we're at the preliminary stage of realizing where we need to make some fixes and develop those proper fixes that work for this model of affordable housing corporation. Yeah, so absolutely. As part of this motion, there were 2 blanks. So we need, and I know we are a lean, mean fighting machine here at this point, 5 members. And I should back up 1 second. I'd like to welcome the 2 new board members. On screen is Councillor Grosso of Ameliasburg Ward, the new bionic man, and Councillor, my cohort in Picton, Councillor McNaughton. So very much want to welcome both of you to this team, and I didn't want to forget that. So anyways, get that out of the way.
Thanks.
And looking forward to working with both of you, and I know both of you have a strong passion for this particular subject matter, so glad to have you along. So I have 2 appointments that need to be made to the governance manual working group.
Just one final question.
Sure.
Question before we move on. So as there is, I'm just wondering if whoever goes away to do this work, if they will be prioritizing some of the policy regarding attracting new members, as that sort of, I think, an early order of business. So is there sort of an order anticipated, or if not, can I suggest that there be an order anticipated, that recruitment become sort of one of the first orders of business? And I don't know if that's putting the cart before the horse, because there still is, every new director is going to need to do onboarding with this documentation. But I still think it might be good to start promoting and recruiting as soon as possible, just to build our capacity.
Yeah. Okay. I see Adam's fingers on the button, so I'll go straight to you, because you may very well be going to say what I was going to say. So go ahead, Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not to take or put words in anyone's mouth, but so and this is for the benefit of the new members and anyone else listening, the reason why the board asked for some interim membership from members of council was that we could continue this wave of momentum that we have on our core priorities. So you'll see in the work plan, which is part of the business plan, which is the next item on the agenda, we had slotted that in for later this year to really focus on the recruitment process. So if we can, fix the policies and procedures that surround that as part of the governance manual, and over the next month or so, then it'll set us up for that recruitment. So long story short, we had a recruitment plan for Q3 of this year.
And I'll take further conversation about that offline.
Okay. Adam, thank you. That you said what I was going to say, basically, but much more eloquently. So I'm still asking for, and again, lean, mean machine here. I'm hoping that a couple of people will volunteer to be part of that governance policy review working group. Brad and Crystal? I'm not going to turn down two quick hands like that. So, and I'm assuming as chair, I'm kind of ex officio on that, because I would certainly I'd like to be involved in some way as I can. Yeah. So I look forward to that. I think it's critical to us moving forward properly. So, okay. So now Crystal made the motion. Oh, we've lost Sam.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
I just got to keep on moving around. I don't want to be a distraction. My leg is really stiff. So, but I am listening and I'm here.
Okay. If you're not going to be on screen, please, if you want to say jump in, just let me know, and I'll pass the microphone to you, Mike.
For sure,
Sam.
for sure, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, I realize it might be a bit of a typo from the terms of reference to the agenda. I guess we had contemplated 3 members, but perhaps we can amend that in a friendly way to say 2 plus the chair acting in an ex officio role.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Unless another person wants to, our lean, mean machine. So I think 2 plus the chair ex officio would probably be adequate.
Okay.
The
Can
board.
we just do a friendly amendment to that motion then, to add that?
Sure. If that's the will of the committee. I'm seeing, yeah.
I mean, we can do that.
Just to make it more clear, I think, than anything. Okay. Yeah.
It's in our terms of reference, though.
Modify that.
Okay. Okay. So that motion is being amended slightly to accommodate for that.
We're considering it a friendly amendment.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So that was moved by Crystal, seconded by Brad. That Crystal and Brad, with the chair as ex officio member, be members of the governance manual working group. All in favor? That is carried. And there will be a lot of work there, a lot of reading. Okay. Where am I here? Next, 7.2. Prince Edward County Housing Corporation Business Plan that the Board of Directors, I guess that's a motion, that the Board of Directors approve the business plan 2025 to 2029, and that staff be directed to implement the work plan and use the business plan in future public communications. Could I get that motion on the floor, please? And then we'll open the discussion. Councillor McNaughton, and seconder, Councillor Grosso. Okay, so that motion is on the floor. Alice, this is you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Through the chair, I guess it doesn't need to be quite that close. The business plan that is submitted is the second for the Housing Corporation, and I won't go through the whole thing, but the executive summary does exactly that. It provides, the business plan provides a historical origins of the corporation, It brings forward the guiding principles from that business plan as well as the guiding pillars from the 2023 strategic plan. And then most recently in November, the board went through an exercise which identified shifting slightly its role, resulting in this updated plan, and includes some governance information, housing needs assessment from the last housing plan approved by the county in December, and also financial tools and tactics and the work plan that we just referenced before.
Questions? Councillor Nyman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was kind of looking to see if I could find my notes, but I can't find them, but I was just on this. I thought in the report it mentioned about the type of homes, affordable homes, like that we need, and it referenced that, you know, most of our a lot of our residents are seniors. So, and just one thing that popped into my head was, and I heard it when I was Hill campaigning, is, you know, we need more seniors housing because we don't have that. And I guess most seniors, if they're in the rural part of the county, if they sell, they can't move to town because they got extra bills and everything else. But if it's an apartment complex or a senior complex, such as the one up on Downs Avenue, and I can't think of the name of that building now, but you know, there's a lot of seniors that live there. And the other part of that would be if we had one of those, that housing available, the houses that the seniors own would come onto the market probably, and they would move into the seniors housing, and then you kind of keep in the market an influx of housing in the market. So it's just opening up the market a bit too. So I'm just wondering, is that something that the board can look at, is seniors housing?
Through the chair, I think the housing plan that was presented in front of council, in short, it prioritizes smaller households, largely singles, who economically have the hardest time with affordable housing anyway, and all the data is skewing toward seniors increasingly being heads of household. So yes, absolutely. In the scope of the Housing Corporation, that's one of the things that it could take a look at in terms of what the mix of housing is. For instance, in Wellington, we were looking at up to 3-bedroom townhomes. The board may want to reconsider that at some point, but certainly. And on the municipality side, there are several initiatives happening with respect to seniors housing, and including home sharing, and congregate living and co-housing. So taking a look at all of that and putting it into the mix, certainly the more affordable housing gets constructed, which we'll touch on a little bit later, the lower the prices will go, hopefully, and make owned housing more accessible.
Go ahead.
Thanks for that. So yeah, I guess, you know, that's kind of, I think I understand what you're saying, but you know, I think a lot of times the seniors, they still want to be independent, right? So you have the co-housing or you know, head of the household or whatever, but they still want to have that independent feel, I guess. And so if they have their own apartment, you know, that gives them that. So I guess, you know, if at some point, if we start looking at developments and, you know, we have the land, I think it's a good place to, or that should be given some consideration so that they do, you know, they still feel independent and still, you know, have the ability to have the social factor. Because that's another thing that's missing that nobody talks about, is when you're out in the rural country or rural area, sometimes you don't see anybody for 2 or 3 weeks. So they need that social part of it, and having that seniors complex will do that.
Oh. Through the chair, absolutely. having rural or semi-rural developments that, like Pinecrest, that provide not just the housing in groups of seniors, but also all those social connections and mutual aid and so on. The whole issue of senior support is a whole other kettle of fish, but yes, all of the above, yes.
Anyone else? No? Okay, Crystal?
Through the chair, I just wanted to confirm for where we're in the business plan talking about financial approach, that it's kind of outlining our specific position we're in now, but moving forward between 2025 and 2029, just confirming we're still able to find other longer term sustainable funding sources, and then we'll just update this. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Through the chair, yes. We'll be looking at several options going forward in Q2.
Okay. From me, with regard, and it's kind of along the same line that Councillor Nyman was going with the transition of residents, let's say one or two in a very large rural home wanting to move into a more community-based living. Is there a role for this board through our advocacy direction to help members of the public who may be in that position or considering that with resources to help them to make that transition? Can that be part of our advocacy role? Providing appropriate and affordable housing or options, recommendations for options? I'm not sure if I'm explaining that clearly enough.
I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. From me? Yeah. Okay. Well, purely from an advocacy role. That's what I was wondering if that can be part of this group's business plan moving forward. Pardon me? Advocating to who?
Yeah.
Advocating to those residents in our community that may be looking for that option and not necessarily knowing what all those options could be. I'm familiar with my own family situation, and it worked out fine for our family with my mother. But I do know there are a great number of people in that elderly category that may not necessarily know what options are out there for them, and should we be, I guess it's somewhat assisting them with information, but in a way advocating for, yes, it's okay to sell your house and move into a community where you're surrounded by people in the same situation and getting all of the supports that are needed? Or is that crossing the line into the housing department's responsibilities? I'd like to hear maybe what Alice says, and then I'll come back to you.
Yes and no, through the chair. The housing department is working with several organizations, including Solo Seniors, Wellington Rotary, and County Foundation, and of course with our own housing department and with Community Care for Seniors. Additional supports for transitioning seniors would certainly be there. In terms of the advocacy role or role for the Housing Corporation specifically, there are certainly potential partnership opportunities with organizations in Prince Edward County to enhance the amount of affordable housing that's available. So yes, some is within the scope of the Housing Corporation, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. Councillor McNaughton.
Would that span, for example, coaching for the establishment of a co-op, or coaching or education about different types of co-housing styles? Is that sort of the area that that there's already sort of some public information, or that all of those organizations that you just mentioned are kind of looking at, or is it something outside of that, or is it more looking for opportunities to actually go and downscale?
The chair, I believe Solo Seniors seems at their offering a series of workshops specifically for
okay.
seniors. Did I not?
Nope.
there we go. Not sure what happened there. Solo seniors in particular are working on a series of workshops for seniors to accomplish exactly that. And we've been talking with solo seniors has a number of interests in different types of alternative housing, in addition to providing supports to seniors directly. So we're working with them and the Wellington Rotary on home sharing and co-housing options. They're looking at, solo seniors in particular is looking at a congregate living model it's now a national organization, Abbeyfield. So in various municipalities, they get funding for and develop the construction of affordable housing for seniors in various levels of independent living. So we're meeting with them and fleshing out how we can help them, and this is the housing department, on some of those initiatives, and then we're also moving the home sharing and the co-housing forward.
Councillor Nyman and then Crystal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just on page 60 of 73. So it's Q25 or 25 Q3. So it's, wait a minute, where am I? No, sorry, Q4, finance part, on the, down near the bottom. It's got implement a fundraising strategy. I'm just wondering why we're waiting until the end of the year, because I guess, you know, if we're trying to get things up and functioning, should we not have that sooner in the year to try and get that, you know, see what's out there and how we can get that going? We don't want to be behind the 8 ball, we want to be ahead of it, I guess.
I'll jump in on that one. This morning, Ellis and Crystal and I guess I don't need to make an announcement at the end of the meeting now, because you raised a very good question that's pertinent. So this morning, the three of us met with, in a preliminary meeting to learn more from one of the representatives from MAS, and I can't remember what the name, what MAS stands for, but they're essentially, it's free fundraising consultation support that I believe was mentioned at a last meeting or a meeting before, I can't. So we had a very preliminary discussion. We received a presentation. I believe Darlene has already forwarded us the slide decks and information, which will be passed on to every member of the committee to see where we're going. But that's where we're at right now, is that very first discussion. I agree with you. I don't think it should wait till Q4. I'm hoping that this process will move ahead faster than that. I'm not going to put a Q on it, but definitely implementing a fundraising strategy is, and I'll say this, I'm happy to stay on that working group if we are going to formally recognize a fundraising group. I'm hoping that Crystal will too. So there will be more information coming. Like I said, it's probably in your email inboxes right now. Councillor McNaughton?
I just wondered if anyone else in the room could just say what MAS stands for. Does anyone recall?
Management Advisory Services.
There you go.
They're a provincial collection of management consultants for nonprofits. So any nonprofit can actually apply for help in a whole range of things. And they assign volunteers, like we just had today.
Okay, great, thank you.
Volunteer advisors doing it for free to help out not-for-profits. And these are all professionals. And this, we didn't get any, when we cast our line the first time, didn't catch anything. But Darlene then subsequently stepped up and said, I'm interested. And this is just, like I say, it happened pretty quickly. She happened to be in town meeting with another organization that she's working with locally. So, Ellis, you had more to add there?
Through the chair, I was just going to mention to Councillor Nyman and all of you, that it doesn't necessarily preclude us from doing any number of things. Broadly, if you define fundraising as the ability to move the affordable housing forward, that still allows us to work in, find partnerships, apply for funds and so on. But as we learned today, and as you'll see in the PowerPoint when it gets circulated, the capital fundraising is quite a large endeavor that it is really front-end loaded in terms of the ability of us to be successful. So even though it says implement, we'll be working on that far sooner.
Okay, any further questions with regards to the corporation business plan? I think, Crystal, you wanted to jump in?
Through the chair, it was more a comment just related to the conversation we were having about advocacy. I just wanted to state that I'm pleased we were having that conversation, because I think that is the whole point of maybe what we were talking about from that, is that we wanted the Affordable Housing Corporation to maybe fill in holes where maybe there is amongst other providers in the municipality, and being able to advocate for maybe some that are slipping through conversations where we find maybe we think they're slipping through, but they're not, because there actually are agencies that are already doing it. And so I just think that that's already a step in the right direction of what we are wanting to accomplish, kind of as we're adjusting things for the corporation.
Okay. Is there anything further on that motion? Mr. Director.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just again, I know it's come up because there's been some questions on it, but I just wanted to make sure that we're all clear on the work plan and coming out of the strategic directions conversation we had, and remember the stop, start, continue kind of establish some of these timelines. But this will essentially form the action tracker moving forward. It'll sort of replace or append to what we had on there. But we want to bring this to you on a monthly basis so we can report back. This is part of that accountability piece and making sure that we're reporting back. So again, if there are things that we think should be pushed up or down, depending on where we see ourselves needing to be, we can have those conversations on an ongoing basis. But this is the starting point, again, coming out of the meeting in November that the former group had with staff. So just wanted to bring up that we have this work plan in there that will be part of an ongoing matrix that we can track our progress.
Yeah. Some things happen faster, that's even better. Councillor Nyman?
Just one more quick question. Because it's the work plan, I guess, or business plan, and if this is the wrong time to ask this question, then you can tell me, Adam. I'm just wondering about Disraeli Street. So it's got Q2 2025, complete the design and be tender ready. Are we tendering it this year? I guess that was one of the things I think that we were trying to push for, is to have it go out for tender. I guess how close are we?
Mr. Chair, through you. So, I mean, the intention has been that around the mid part of the year, we'd be in a position to do that. We are working through with the conceptual stuff with Duncan Patterson and those sorts of things. But a lot of what the timeline that comes out of in terms of construction will be depending on how quickly our application is processed by CMHC when that time comes. It's an unknown. I'm not hearing from other folks who are also applying how quickly they're hearing back. The Pinecrest Homes is one that we've been following with them. I know they've applied, and it's been several months without hearing anything to my knowledge. So that will be the biggest unknown of when we can get shovels in the ground and actually get a project tendered, will be how quickly we can get the Class B and how quickly we can hear back from the CMHC, assuming the program still exists by the time we're ready to apply for it.
Yeah. So being tender ready, there's a lot of work to get to that point, but it's still doable for no later than the end of Q2, which is May, June. Q3 is, we're in the latter part of that now, or Q1, sorry. So, okay. Any further questions on this? No? Okay, then I believe I have Kate and Sam as mover and seconder. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Then we have 7.3, update from the Director of Housing regarding Municipal Housing Project Facilities Designation Bylaw and an agreement for 30 Disraeli Street, Picton. And there is an attached motion. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Crystal and Brad? You could read that, please, Crystal?
That the Board of Directors authorize the chair to execute the Municipal Housing Project Facilities Agreement between the County of Prince Edward and the Prince Edward County Affordable Housing Corporation for 30 Disraeli Street, Picton.
Okay. And Mr. Director, did you want to, four of us are familiar with that, so, but I'll let you do an update or a synopsis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's what I was thinking, is that the membership's largely council, but member Lanstra, and those who are listening. So the Prince Edward County has a municipal capital housing projects facility bylaw, which is a mechanism that allows, under the Municipal Act, which allows municipality to waive property taxes and provide other grants to certain types of projects, and affordable housing is one of them. So recently, staff brought to council requests for 3 sites. This was one of them. And as you see, the agreement is fairly standard, very similar to the one that was approved by council for the Nile Street, Wellington. So we are asking, and we were approved at that meeting, to include this site, to designate it as a municipal capital housing facilities project, and then the bylaw, the agreement will be signed by the chair, and that has the terms and conditions as to ensuring that the units maintain affordable rent. The duration of the agreement is minimum 20 years. The one thing that's in there, perhaps to Councillor Nyman's point, is that we are saying that we'll start building in the year that we're conferred the benefit. So that's, again, we can go back to council and ask for an amendment, but I think that also establishes an expectation that we get, we're serious about that project and get the shovels in the ground. So really it's simply an approval to apply the designation to that property, and as soon as Mr. Chair signs off on it, we can get it to the tax department and stop that tax bill from coming in the mail.
Unless I break my wrist, I will be signing that. Once approved by the board, sorry. Anyone else have any questions regarding that authorization to sign the agreement with the municipality? No? Okay, then I will call the motion. All in favor? That's carried. Wonderful. I'll wait for the clerk's office to distribute that document to be signed. And along that, I believe there's some other signatures that the chair is required, minutes, etc. Anyways, I'll talk to you after the meeting. How's that? Okay. You may not be familiar with it at this point, but anyways. Okay, so next is agenda item 7.4. Letter to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, requesting recognition of local rental market data and market adjustment points within their existing capital funding programs to support the development of affordable rental housing in Prince Edward County. So I need a mover and seconder for the motion that the Board of Directors authorize the chair to submit an advocacy letter to CMHC on behalf of Prince Edward County Affordable Housing Corporation. Could I have a mover and seconder? Councillor McNaughton and Crystal. And I am going to, Adam, did you want to speak to that? Or Alice? Staff, I'll say. Or both.
Okay, we're going to tag team this.
Good.
The request for an advocacy letter actually follows on an issue that's almost exactly 2 years old now. In 2023, the mayor sent a letter to CMHC on the issue of the calculation of median market rent, because then and still now, the median market rent skews far lower as far as CMHC's calculation goes. And so when you're trying to develop a pro forma to build affordable housing, it's pretty hard to do that when you're trying to come up with a rent that's 20% below MMR. So there's actually, at this point, a 65% difference between what CMHC calculates at 65% lower than what the county has been calculating for rental data since 2020. So that's one thing. We're asking the CMHC to use local regional market data rather than their own. The second part is the enhanced apartment construction loan program. That program is available primarily to the private sector and is now scored recently on a points basis and based on points that they calculate toward municipalities. The problem is that any builder of affordable housing in Prince Edward County can't use the form because Prince Edward County doesn't show up as a municipality in their formulations. Never mind apply a score. So we're asking that Prince Edward County be included in that program and also for them to provide to us what the scoring might be because we don't know what that is based on and there needs to be a rationale behind that. So that's what the letter is breaking out.
Questions? Councillor McNaughton and then Crystal.
So you talk about letters of support within the report, and that's, I think, smart, and an obvious municipal support letter. I'm just wondering if it's useful to CC the provincial ministry on the letter as well, which I don't think was in there, and to request that the ministry provide a letter of support for the federal body to back up our claim for reality, to be to be put on the record, or to have that mechanism taken seriously. And I don't know if the ministry would provide such a letter. I don't know if that's something, but I don't think it would hurt to ask either a minister or a deputy minister. And I'm wondering if that's something that the group would be comfortable with. And additionally, I would suggest maybe some stronger language in the introductory paragraph of the letter. I think it's an excellent letter. However, I feel like it does really, the word crisis comes in the very last quarter of the letter, and I feel like somehow it needs to be included in the top of the letter just to really bring home the fact that there's a crisis not being recognized in the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, and that we do have special circumstances that have made it an aggravated situation in Prince Edward County, and it's one of those, we've had so much success in our tourism industry that it's actually created a greater impact in this small region than you would typically see in a rural area, and finding a way to sort of put that in neon lights at the very top of the paragraph so that it's a little bit harder to just put on the pile of paper, I think would be helpful.
Crystal?
Through the chair, I just had a question for staff. The second half about the loan program, was that also in the 2023 letter? And I'm just curious if the requests that we had in 2023, were they recognized by CMHC?
Through the chair, no and no. The program wasn't mentioned in the 2023 letter, and the response that we got was not helpful in explaining why they arrived. Well, they said that there wasn't enough data when we were telling them that we did have data. So we're back to square one on that. The program itself, I think what's problematic is a more recent change to the program, and which we weren't aware of at the time.
Go ahead. You follow up?
Thank you. Through the chair, am I reading this correctly as well for the rental data that they're wanting us to use their data and yet they only have 2-bedroom at $1,294 a month?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Therein lies the biggest part of the problem, is that they are unwilling to recognize that their numbers are not perfect, that they are in fact considerably flawed, and unwilling to recognize that locally we have done our own data, created our own data that is pretty darn accurate. So there's a communication issue going on here, and I think that's where the advocacy letter, and I do agree, while I've, obviously I've read the letter, and I'm hoping maybe a greater conversation to make sure that we tighten up the language, to be more emphatic, a stronger advocate. There's a lot of words that you could use there, to make sure, and certainly the circulation, I think, I had a note on here, administer of housing, as well. So I think there may be a broader circulation that's required. Well, I believe there is, so, yeah. Kate?
It's funny because you try to make sure that your language isn't that it's not dismissible because it's too emphatic. So then you end up, it's so hard to strike that neat balance. But additionally, I wonder if it's useful to really emphasize that we actually do have builders in this area who are ready to go, and meet our community needs somewhere at the top of the letter also, that those projects could be at risk.
Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy to entertain any recommended revisions. Again, this is the part of the new direction, right? This advocacy piece, and kind of stole what I was going to say, Councillor McNaughton.
I stole your thunder.
This is a big problem, right? And one of the reasons why there weren't the two items previously was because we were approaching it from our own development perspective. So the fact that the CMHC has these ludicrously low numbers that we are required to use in our pro forma, which we would never ever create a business case to build anything, was our own projects. So that's still a problem, but what we're finding as we branch out and we're looking at partnerships and we're seeing other developers in the community build or wishing to build affordable housing. So as you say, it's not that we're sitting here wishing for the developer to come in and build for us or build with us. We have that in place. The problem is now that the unfairness, if you will, of the program means that Prince Edward County gets 0 points, and it is a points-based system. And so this, the lack of equity, I would say, in these programs, when we know we have a demonstrated need, we have very good data, as Ellis says, we are continually researching our own market. We're not, we need to double down on this advocacy piece because it's not only affecting our own projects, which it will, it's also affecting any partnership or any other private developer that wishes to come in and build for us. So it's moving us in the wrong direction. So we need to really push this time on both of those items, both the ALCP point system as well as those the rent numbers that we're required to use for market data.
Go ahead.
And do they still have? Do they have any realistic understanding of what our vacancy rate is, or are they still thinking that it's 3% higher than it actually is?
The data that I got this from also shows no data for a vacancy rate. And that's one of the things that we've been able to start last year with our online housing registry, is understanding what the housing stock actually is here in order to calculate the vacancy rate.
So then that would be, another sort of, here's the fire, help us with the water, introductory suggestion I might put forward to them.
And part of and then I'll come to you, Crystal, another part of the problem for me is the fact that they do an annual assessment. And if I'm not mistaken, we are updating ours quarterly, right? So we have what I would call on-the-spot information. Theirs is quarterly, and it's not complete. Like I say, only 2 bedrooms are being assessed. They're missing a lot. And no information available for anything else. Like, none of it makes sense. So that's why we need to start advocating at every level with every possible partner in this realm of affordable housing to pound that message home. Your information doesn't work. Your criteria for approval for funding does not make sense. It doesn't work. We are being ignored and we are being lost in the process, as well as anybody else that wants to do this to to be involved in affordable housing or in this community. And I don't know, I really get frustrated when we don't get answers, and that's kind of where we're at. And when you ask a question, you don't really get a straight answer if you get one at all. So I guess advocating with many groups in our community, which I know is going on through the, I'll call it the housing department side, there is strong advocacy happening out there because, as Adam mentioned, the private developers who want to provide or work with us, they just can't because they don't match, the numbers don't add up for them and they get excluded when the scoring system is so weighted to other areas. So, Crystal?
Through the chair, I'm just curious or brainstorming, thinking of how to maybe set us apart from our 2023 letter. And I am trying to think as well from an advocacy perspective, if maybe we add, because at the end it talks about asking for immediate amendments, which I think is great. Is there a way maybe from like we request a meeting? I don't know if they do that, but that might put a bit more emphasis to say like, yeah, like we don't want this to be the end of the conversation. We want you to meet us where we're at and let's talk, and we'll tell you all about how our data is better than yours and how you should be using it. I'm sure many of us on this board would be happy to participate in meeting with that along with staff if that's the direction that we'd like to go.
Well, I'm glad you raised that subject matter. This is something that Adam and I have certainly talked about. And I was planning on bringing an additional motion tonight to this meeting to forward on a recommendation to council along that line. I didn't want to get into it because I think that was going to be a very long conversation today. But I certainly, because we haven't heard yes or no on the HAF 2.0 from the municipality hasn't heard, not us, sorry. We know Belleville received funding, others have received funding, but we haven't received a yes or a no. So I'm willing to wait until putting forward a notice of motion that council obviously putting the weight of council behind the request to have the CMHC or representatives come forward to our community to answer these questions publicly, not in an email and say, oh, here's your scorecard. So that's basically all we got before, and that's not helpful. So yes, it's been on my mind, and yeah, I was thinking of bringing it today, but I think it needs a little more work before I would certainly be willing to bring it forward at a council meeting. Then it's the weight of council behind it, not just us. But certainly I think we can advocate for that. Speak to other councillors and say, we need you to do this. Of course, you're speaking to 4 of us right now, so that all I think are pretty much aligned on that. So anyways, yeah, I wasn't prepared to bring that forward today because I think more thought needs to go into it for now.
Follow up?
Sure.
If this letter is getting sent out, is it possible, like whether we actually have the meeting or not, if we add it to the letter so that it's there to say we would like the possibility of meeting potentially, and maybe we wait down the line to see what form that actually takes, but it puts us on the record of asking for something like that, a bit more weight behind our letter that we're requesting?
I'm comfortable with working some language like that into the letter, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The more vocal we are, the better. I think eventually the better off we'll be. And if you're quiet and you don't say anything, that's right. We could ask them to come and visit us and explain to us here at the Affordable Housing Corporation, as well as council asking. Put some pressure on them. So, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair, I was just wondering if you wanted to actually do an amending motion to the motion to send the letter, something along the lines that the Minister of Housing be requested to support the corporation's request, and that the advocacy letter be strengthened to clearly identify the housing crisis in our municipality and the need for a future meeting, or something along those lines.
I like that.
That could be an amending motion to the one on the floor.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
there, Mr. Chair, references minister. I mean, the CMHC would be the federal minister, but I think I heard earlier, it would not hurt.
Yeah.
I would point out that the province, when they introduced the mandatory development charge exemptions, also piggybacks on those CMHC rental numbers. Remember, we discussed that at council. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt, in my opinion, to make sure that that message is to all housing ministries.
Yeah.
So we can be clear there, or say provincial.
Okay,
Provincial, identify as provincial and federal then.
yes, okay, yeah, I think that's where, I'm getting a consensus here, a feeling that that's the direction. Very good suggestion. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Alice?
I don't know that it's necessary for the purpose of the motion, but I guess the Housing Corporation and or council may want to repeat the process for before and after both elections.
Yes, I think this,
necessary.
this will be an ongoing, continuous process. And if we have to even just recopy the letters, change the name as to who it's addressed to, but definitely we can't not continue to advocate. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Mr. Chair, this is, to me, this is the opening salvo. We also are working to get letters of support from other agencies that are in the housing space, supportive housing, transitional housing. We're going to have a whole stack of letters for the round 2, but I suggest that we continue with this message on an ongoing basis. This is not a one-time thing. I don't think this is. We've got to keep pushing until we get our message through.
Yeah. Okay.
Further to Crystal's point, is I think looking to meet with the provincial ministry would also be very helpful. And I think staff probably talks to staff at the ministry from time to time, certainly, but having some advocacy done, seeing if we can find a way to connect with the minister or deputy ministers might be something that we can do to help keep the fires burning bright. I love that idea of even just consistently asking. And if they say no, you ask again, and eventually they get sick of you and say yes. So I think, doing the same, applying the same strategy to the province might be very good as well.
Well, absolutely. Unfortunately, we have to wait until the end of the month to find out who that next provincial minister of housing is going to be, if there is going to be a change. And I think, for me, I guess, getting letters of support from the EOW, the EOWC, locally, Quinn Isle nonprofit, the Pinecrest Development Group, everybody working together, we end up with a much louder voice. That's the only way I think we're going to make the changes that are necessary, so that our community is as well served as others. So, okay. So we will work on, I'm going to take some loose direction here that we will work on the language of that letter. And I would even go so far as to suggest that we circulate it to members, because I'd like to get it right. I want it to be strong, but I want it to be right as well. So between myself and staff, we'll draft a letter that hopefully everybody agrees to. Okay, is there any further discussion regarding that motion? And I can't remember do I need a mover and seconder? I had Kate.
You have a mover, you need a seconder for that amending motion.
Okay, I'll give it to Sam. So, all in favor of that motion? That is carried. Okay, excellent.
And then the main motion as amended, please.
That's correct. Thank you very much. And so that was the amendment, and then the main motion as amended. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. So that brings us to, well, that was a quick meeting. We've covered a lot of information, and I'm really happy. I get the sense everybody read all of that information, and there was a lot there. And I think moving forward, we're going to have a lot on our plates. There's going to be, I think a few of our agendas are going to be quite heavy, but I'm going to say I believe we're going to start making some real serious progress. So looking forward to that. Councillor McNaughton.
You made reference earlier, and I think it got covered, to an announcement that you were going to make at the end of the meeting. Did I?
That was regards to the MAS
It
meeting
was
that Crystal
regarding
and Alice
the
had.
MAS. Was there specific information, or was it everything that you already said?
It's
Or
pretty-
just that the
it'll
meeting
be
happened?
easier, the meeting happened, and
Great.
I think, so that I don't go
Okay.
on for half an hour, there's an email in your inbox that has all of the information that was presented to the three of us. And Darlene, I think, is looking forward to receiving any questions we may have.
Thank you.
As am I, and Crystal and Alice, I think, so.
Thanks, I just couldn't
That's
couldn't
what I was
remember what
alluding
was
to, but it-
pinpointed. Absolutely. Thank you. I'll check my inbox.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I worked it in on a question that Crystal raised, so. Okay, so we're at agenda item 8. Next meeting is March the
Sorry,
10th.
Mr. Chair, we had another item there, 7.5.
Oh, I accidentally checked that off, and I should not have. My apologies. And Madam CAO is ill today,
Just under the weather, yes.
so you have, you're standing in for her?
I don't know all the details about it, and so, you know, perhaps the board will just receive this, but there is a new initiative that's being fleshed out in the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and it pertains to the potential bundling of shovel-ready, zoned and serviced lands throughout the EOWC area that perhaps could be bundled into an expression of interest to seek developers and to have that sort of critical mass of a number of projects that would make it palatable for a developer to take a package of affordable development projects. So that's what this was. I think we had prepared a secondary motion that our Wellington site be included in that. But I'm not sure that I know all of the details at this point. Yeah. So perhaps we can just leave it with the board that there is an initiative being brought forward that would potentially be a good candidate, our Wellington site, for inclusion in that larger scale Eastern Ontario project.
Okay, can I ask then that, I guess that be put on our next meeting's agenda for more, to flesh it out so that we better understand everything and the implications, and it would have been helpful, obviously, if Madam CAO was here. She could have clearly maybe answered a lot of our questions, but I know you're not as familiar with it, so as in-depth as say Marcia is.
No, Mr. Chair, and I think this is brand new, and I think our CAO is certainly a key player in the development of the program, so would be the best person. But at least we've now had that out as a bit of an opener, I guess, to the board, that potentially there could be something that could benefit that particular site.
Okay. Something to come then. Okay. Councillor McNaughton?
I can save this for next month, but do you have any idea what sort of timelines that the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus is trying to stick to, if they're trying to build this mass for this year, or if we do have quite a lot of lead time? Because wouldn't that be amazing?
Mr. Chair.
And I understand if you don't know.
So the answer, yeah, it would be amazing. I believe that the timeline is fairly quick, but I'm not sure exactly what the time frame for the issuance of this EOI would be. It wouldn't take us long to put the particulars together for this particular site in a sheet, I guess. When the time comes, we'll be ready to get that if the board chooses to include this or put it forward as part of that program.
Thanks.
Okay, so more to come in March then on that one. Okay, so not quite sure if how you want to deal with that motion, since it's not the CAO. It's
well, I would suggest that the matter be just referred to the next meeting,
okay.
and that way it will be captured for the next agenda.
Okay, so I should have mover and seconder to refer that particular subject matter to the March 10th meeting. Would that be appropriate? Okay. Mover, Councillor McNaughton, and I was going to call you Councillor Landstra. Director Landstra. Okay, so all in favor of moving that to March's meeting? Okay, that's carried. All right. check mark on 7.5 now. Okay, so agenda item 8, again, March 10th is our next meeting, 1 p.m., and it'll be here in council chambers to accommodate the live streaming. So now 9.1, could I have a mover and seconder to adjourn the meeting? Councillor Nyman and Councillor Grasso. The meeting now adjourn at, what time is it? 2:08? All in favor? That is carried. Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. Sam, I hope you're feeling okay. You're not walking around in the snow, I hope.
Nope, I haven't left the house.
Okay, that's one of those false images behind you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.